Sometimes silence is the loudest scream. My friends, that one line alone should stop you in your tracks. Because when you don't come back, when you don't chase, when you hold steady in your silence, it echoes louder than any words ever could. And the truth is, that echo doesn't just reach their ears. It shakes their certainty, their pride, their sense of control. You see, folks, people often believe they've got you figured out. They think your return is guaranteed, your attention permanent, your loyalty unshakable. But what happens when that belief shatters? That's where the real pain begins. Before we dive deep into this eye-opening journey, do me a favor. Press that like button right now, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay with me until the very end, because today we're going to break some lies wide open and replace them with truth that will set you free. Now, hey folks, imagine this for a second. You're watching a movie. The story's building up, tension is high, your heart's racing, and just before the final scene, the screen cuts to black. No ending, no explanation, nothing. You sit there waiting, thinking surely the story will come back. But it doesn't. That hollow silence. That's exactly what they feel when you don't return. It's not just absence, it's disruption. It's like someone pulled the rug from beneath their feet while they were still dancing. The music stops, but the echo of what could have been still lingers. People lie to themselves, my friends. They say things like, "Oh, he'll always be back. They'll never really leave. They'll chase because they need me." It's their safety net, the cushion that allows them to treat you carelessly. But when the cushion collapses, when the net is gone, they crash straight into reality. And reality hurts. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And that's what silence does. It forces them into the imagination they can't control. Their mind races with questions, scenarios, regrets. Silence turns their certainty into a storm. Think of it like this: your silence is a mirror. When they look into it, they don't see you. They see themselves, and often they don't like what's staring back. The lies they told themselves crumble, and the truth stands naked. That truth is this: you are not bound by them. Your presence was always a choice, never a guarantee. And when they realize that, it hits harder than any rejection. Because rejection at least gives words, gives closure. Silence, though, silence gives nothing but reflection. And here's where the fun part sneaks in. You know what happens when a cat ignores its owner? Suddenly, the owner shakes the bag of treats louder, claps, whistles, does everything to get its attention. Why? Because being ignored by what you thought you controlled is unbearable. Humans aren't all that different. They post, they smile bigger, they laugh louder, but all of it is an attempt to break the silence that unnerves them. And the more you refuse to budge, the more their imagination runs wild. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's exactly what your silence embodies. It's not a weapon, it's not cruelty, it's power rooted in discipline. You're not punishing them, you're protecting yourself. You're choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, dignity over desperation. And folks, let me tell you, that choice unsettles them more than any argument, any fight, or any word you could ever say. So let's break the biggest lie right here. Silence does not mean weakness. It does not mean indifference. It means mastery. It means you are no longer willing to play on their terms. You stand where you are, calm, steady, unmoved. And in that steadiness, you become unforgettable. And before we continue into the stages of the pain they feel when you don't come back, I want you to do two things right now. Drop a comment below with these words: "Silence is power." That's your affirmation today. Write it, see it, own it. And second, hit that like button and subscribe, because you won't want to miss what's coming next. Stay with me, my friends. We're just getting started. Number 1. The shock of stillness. We always imagine tomorrow will look like today until silence proves us wrong. My friends, that's where the pain truly begins. They thought your return was guaranteed. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. In their mind, you were like the sun, always rising, always showing up, always orbiting their world. But then the silence holds. You don't come back. You don't send that message. You don't appear in the places they thought you would. And suddenly, the world they built in their head cracks. Imagine this. You're watching a performance where the music builds and builds, pulling you higher, and right at the peak, the sound cuts. Nothing, just dead air. Your ears strain, waiting, expecting the rhythm to return. But it doesn't. That's the shock they feel. They thought they knew the script, but you flipped it, tore the page, and walked off stage. And folks, nothing unsettles the human mind more than interrupted certainty. Questions flood their mind. Why didn't they reach out? Did I misjudge? Did I push too far? Or have they really let go? At first, they try to laugh it off. They tell themselves, oh, they'll be back. They always do. But day after day, when the silence doesn't break, it eats at them. Slowly, quietly, it digs in. It's like someone pulling a chair out from under them just as they sit down. The shock isn't only physical, it's psychological. They thought the ground was solid. They thought they were in control. And suddenly, it's gone. Marcus Aurelius once said, if you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. And that's the truth here. It isn't your silence alone that hurts. It's the story they told themselves about your silence. They thought they had the power to predict you. They thought you would always orbit back. Now they realize they never had control, only an illusion. And that realization is sharper than rejection. Think about it, folks. Rejection is loud. It has words. It has edges. But silence? Silence has no walls, no limits. It stretches endlessly, and the mind hates that. Because the mind craves answers, closure, control. When you give none, their own imagination becomes the punishment. They replay old conversations. They scroll through old photos. They even type messages, only to delete them, because to reach out would be to admit they were wrong. And their pride can't allow that, so instead they sit in the storm of their own thoughts. It's a strange kind of torture, isn't it? One they brought upon themselves, because they counted on your return like it was written in stone. They believed your attention was permanent, like water flowing from a faucet they could turn on and off at will. But when the faucet runs dry, they don't just miss the water, they panic. They realize they were never the source. They never owned the flow. And that truth humbles them in ways they never expected. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a queen sitting on her throne, confident, expecting her subjects to bow. Every day they do. But one day, one subject doesn't show up, then another, and then another. Suddenly, her throne feels less like a symbol of power and more like a seat of loneliness. That's the shock of your silence. They believed in the throne, but the throne only had meaning because you acknowledged it. When you don't return, the crown feels heavy, the seat feels cold, the illusion falls apart. Now, don't get it twisted. This silence isn't cruelty. It isn't revenge. From a Stoic perspective, it's simply a boundary. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." And that's what you've chosen. You're not punishing them. You're protecting yourself. You're not playing a game. You're stepping out of one. Your silence says, I will not trade my peace for confusion. I will not chase what does not value me. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. But here's where the paradox hits hard. What feels like peace to you becomes turmoil to them. What feels like stillness to you becomes chaos in their world. Because silence is a mirror, my friends, and when they look into it, they don't see you. They see themselves. They see the hollowness of their pride, the cracks in their certainty, the lies they told themselves to feel in control. And that reflection burns deeper than any fight, any rejection, any goodbye. Now, here's the tough truth. Many can't admit this pain. They'll mask it. They'll smile louder, post brighter, laugh harder. They'll play the part of being fine. But inside, they know the truth. Your silence has power they can't explain. It unsettles them because it proves something they don't want to face. You are not bound to return. You never were. Your presence was always a gift, not a guarantee. And when that gift is gone, they're left staring at an empty space they can't fill. Think of it like a song cutting off mid-chorus. The silence makes the absence of music feel even heavier. The memory of the rhythm lingers, but the sound is gone. That's the pain they sit with. And here's the beauty, my friends. What feels like loss to them feels like freedom to you. What feels like chaos in their world is calm in yours. You've stepped out of the noise, and in doing so, you've found peace. And let me tell you something powerful. Most people will never understand this strength. They'll say silence is weakness. They'll call it indifference. They'll label it avoidance. But the Stoics knew better. Epictetus said, silence is a lesson learned from the many sufferings of life. Silence is not avoidance, it's mastery. It's the moment you realize you don't need to explain, argue, or prove. You only need to stand firm. So, my friends, write this in the comments right now. I master myself. That's your affirmation today. Type it, see it, believe it. Because when you choose silence, when you choose restraint, when you choose peace, you're not losing. You are mastering yourself. And there is no greater power than that. Stay with me, because what comes next will dig even deeper. If the shock of stillness shakes them this much, wait until you see what happens when their pride collides with your silence. That's when the real storm begins. Number 2, ego meets the wall. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs spoke that truth thousands of years ago, and my friends, nothing brings it into sharper focus than silence. Because silence is the one thing the ego cannot tolerate. It can handle noise, it can handle arguments, it can even handle rejection if it means it gets to feel important. But silence exposes its fragility. And when you don't come back, when you don't give them the chase they've always counted on, their pride smashes headfirst into a wall they never expected. Let's not sugarcoat it. Their ego whispers lies like lullabies. They'll chase, they always do. No matter what happens, they'll be back. I can ignore them, push them away, test them, and they'll still run after me. That thought is their safety net. It's the cushion they fall back on every time they play games, every time they withdraw affection, every time they treat your presence as if it's permanent. But when you don't come back, when you refuse to chase, that net vanishes. They fall, and the ground hurts more than they imagined. Picture it like this, folks. Imagine someone leaning back in a chair they've sat in for years. They don't even think about it. They just assume it'll hold. But one day, the chair's gone. They crash hard. Not because the ground changed, but because their belief blinded them. That's the ego hitting the wall of silence. It believed your attention was guaranteed. It thought you'd always be there, and when the reality proves otherwise, the crash is brutal. At first, they'll mask it, they'll shrug, they'll act like it doesn't matter, but inside, questions begin to claw at their pride. Why aren't they chasing? Why aren't they proving I still matter? Why aren't they validating me the way they used to? The silence doesn't just leave them empty, it leaves them exposed, because ego thrives on attention, it feeds on proof. Proof that it's still powerful, proof that it still holds weight in your world. And when your silence denies it that proof, the ego starts to starve. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's exactly the difference here. They gave their ego power over your reactions. They believed they could dictate your return, but you've taken that power back. You've realized that strength doesn't come from proving yourself to anyone. It comes from mastering yourself. And nothing unsettles the ego more than a man who no longer plays by its rules. Think of the countless times they posted something on social media, knowing you'd see it, expecting you to react. Maybe a picture designed to spark jealousy. Maybe a caption meant to tug at your emotions. In the past, you might have taken the bait. You might have commented, liked, or reached out. And every time you did, their ego purred with satisfaction. But now you don't. Now you scroll past in silence, steady and unmoved. And that silence? It's deafening. Because every non-reaction, every unanswered post is a bruise to their pride. Let's be real here, my friends. Ego is fragile. It pretends to be strong, but it only survives when fed. Without attention, without validation, it begins to question itself, and that's exactly what your silence forces it to do. It holds up a mirror and says, "You are not as powerful as you thought." And that truth cuts deeper than rejection, deeper than arguments, deeper than any words could. But here's where the Stoic wisdom shines through, because your silence is not a weapon, it's wisdom. The Stoics taught that real strength often looks like restraint. Epictetus said, "If someone is able to provoke you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." By refusing to react, you're refusing to be complicit in their game. You're breaking the cycle of ego and validation that once held you captive. You're showing that strength doesn't roar, it stands firm. Let me give you another metaphor. Imagine waves crashing against a rock. The waves are loud, dramatic, relentless. They come with force, they spray, they make noise. But the rock doesn't move, it doesn't argue, it doesn't shout back, it doesn't chase the wave into the sea. It stands, and the more the waves crash, the more obvious the rock's strength becomes. That's your silence, that's your steadiness, and the louder their ego tries to prove itself, the more your silence proves it's powerless against you. Now, here's where it gets even more ironic. What they once took for granted, the steady attention, the quick replies, the reassurance that fed their pride, is now what they miss the most. But the problem is, it's gone. And gone not because you're playing games, but because you've grown. You've chosen peace over chaos. You've chosen clarity over confusion. You've chosen mastery over reaction. And that choice, though quiet, is louder than any declaration. Of course, they'll try to convince themselves otherwise. They'll laugh louder, smile brighter, act as though they're unbothered. But deep down, their ego burns, because every day you don't chase, every time you stay silent, every time you remain steady, it's another reminder that the hold they thought they had on you was nothing but smoke. And smoke can't stand against stone. So, my friends, here's the lie we need to break. Chasing proves nothing. Chasing doesn't make you strong. It doesn't make you noble. It doesn't make you worthy. It only proves you've handed your peace to someone else's ego. But silence proves mastery. Silence proves you know your worth. Silence proves that your dignity is not up for debate, and that kind of strength is untouchable. Think about this. If you were to react, to argue, to chase, they'd find comfort. They'd say, "See, I still matter. I still control the rhythm." But when you stay silent, when you refuse to react, they find nothing. No comfort, no control, no validation. Only questions that gnaw at their pride. And those questions hurt more than any argument could. That's why, in this moment, your silence speaks louder than words. It tells them, "I am no longer your puppet. I am no longer bound by your approval. I stand firm in myself." And that message doesn't just unsettle them, it reshapes you. It shows the world, and most importantly yourself, that you are not here to beg, to prove, or to chase. You are here to master yourself. So here's your affirmation for today. Write it in the comments right now. I rise above with silence. That's not just a phrase, it's a declaration that you are bigger than the games, stronger than the noise, and untouchable in your peace. And my friends, stay with me, because if their pride struggles this much against silence, just wait until we uncover what happens next, when curiosity turns restless and silence begins to drive their thoughts into chaos. That's where the storm really begins. Number 3, curiosity turns restless. The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. And my friends, they land perfectly here, because once ego collides with silence, curiosity comes creeping in. At first, it's light, almost playful, a passing thought. I wonder what they're doing. I wonder if they're thinking about me. I wonder if they'll reach out tomorrow. But curiosity has sharp teeth. And when there's no answer to feed it, it doesn't stay small. It grows, it digs, it twists. Silence turns what was once mild curiosity into restless obsession. Imagine someone sitting at a poker table, confident, smiling, thinking they've got the winning hand. They push their chips forward, waiting for their opponent to show theirs. But the opponent doesn't move, doesn't speak, doesn't reveal anything. They just sit still, calm, unreadable. Do you know what happens? The mind of the player goes wild. They start second-guessing. Do they have the better hand? Are they bluffing? Should I fold? Should I raise? That's exactly what your silence does. It's the unreadable face across the table, and the longer it holds, the more restless they become. At first, they'll brush it off. They'll tell themselves, "Oh, they're just busy. They'll be back. No big deal." But the longer your silence stretches, the more their questions multiply. Every unanswered notification, every empty inbox, every night without a message, it adds weight. And curiosity, left unsatisfied, quickly transforms into restlessness. They pick up their phone more often, hoping for a sign. They scroll through old conversations, rereading your words as if looking for hidden meaning. They even type a message, then delete it, pride stopping them at the last second. My friends, this is the cruel trick of silence. It hands their mind the microphone, and the mind, when left alone in the dark, rarely speaks kindly. Instead, it plays loops of doubt. Did I push too far? Did I lose them? Are they with someone else? Have they already moved on? Those thoughts repeat like a song stuck on replay, and the more they try to silence it, the louder it becomes. Because here's the truth. Clarity ends curiosity, but silence keeps it alive. Think of it like standing in a dark hallway. If someone shuts the door, you know it's over. You can turn and walk away. But if the door stays slightly open, just enough to see shadows, your mind creates endless stories about what's behind it. That's your silence. It doesn't slam the door, but it doesn't open it either. It leaves them staring into the hallway, restless, pacing, consumed by what they cannot know. Epictetus once said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." And that's the knife turning here. It's not your absence alone that makes them restless, it's their interpretation of it. They're building stories in their head, entire scenarios, each one cutting deeper than the last. Because the human mind hates uncertainty more than it hates pain. Pain ends. Uncertainty lingers, and silence is the breeding ground of uncertainty. Folks, let's make this even clearer with a metaphor. Imagine a dripping faucet. One drop, then silence. Another drop, then silence. At first, you can ignore it, but as the hours stretch on, it begins to gnaw at you. You lie awake at night, hyper-focused on each sound. That's their curiosity. At first, they think they can ignore it, but the silence between each imagined drop grows unbearable. They check their phone at 2 a.m., hoping for something, anything. They open your profile looking for clues. They analyze pictures, posts, likes. Yet every time, silence answers back. And silence is merciless. Here's where the fear creeps in. Their mind begins to ask, what if they're better off without me? What if I wasn't as important as I thought? What if they've already replaced me? And those what-ifs don't just sting. They unravel the image they built of themselves. Because remember, their pride told them you'd always chase. But your silence forces the opposite story. It whispers that you might be stronger without them, and that possibility is the seed of their restlessness. Now, don't mistake this. You're not playing games. You're not sitting in silence to torture anyone. From a Stoic perspective, your silence is simply a boundary. It's your choice to protect your peace, to hold your ground, to live without being pulled into drama. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's exactly what you're doing. You refuse to hand your peace to someone else's curiosity. You anchor yourself in calm while their storm rages. And here's the paradox. Your calm makes their restlessness sharper. Because the contrast is glaring. They're up at night, scrolling, overthinking, replaying memories. You're steady, focused, building, living. They chase answers outside while you cultivate clarity inside. That gap between their chaos and your calm becomes a chasm they cannot cross, and the bigger it grows, the more restless they feel. Let me break another lie here. They believed they were the one holding control. They thought they could stir your emotions, provoke a response, spark your chase whenever they wanted. But silence strips that illusion. It reveals that control was never theirs. And when control slips away, curiosity turns into panic. They don't just wonder where you are. They wonder who they are without your response. And that's the kind of restlessness that no distraction can soothe. Sure, they'll try. They'll surround themselves with noise, friends, parties, posts, maybe even new faces. They'll laugh louder, talk longer, fill their days with activity. But when the night grows quiet and the phone stays still, their mind goes back to the same loop. Silence doesn't fade. It echoes, and each echo pulls them back into the cycle of restlessness. So, my friends, let's turn this around. What does silence mean for you? It means freedom. It means discipline. It means you're no longer at the mercy of someone else's pride or curiosity. You've chosen to stand firm. And, in doing so, you've proven a truth many never reach. Peace isn't found in chasing answers, it's found in mastering yourself. Write this affirmation in the comments right now. My silence speaks, because it does. It speaks of discipline, it speaks of strength, it speaks of the kind of power that doesn't need to raise its voice to be heard. And stay with me, folks, because what comes next cuts even deeper. Curiosity may turn restless, but soon restlessness turns into comparison, and that's when they begin to see the man you've become in your silence, and it hurts more than they ever expected. Number 4, the weight of comparison. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Seneca wrote those words, and my friends, they strike right at the heart of this stage. Because when curiosity has eaten them alive, when silence has forced their mind into endless questions, something even heavier begins to settle in, the weight of comparison. They start looking at who you were when you were orbiting their world, and who you are now that you've stepped out of it. And that gap, that contrast, that's where the pain digs the deepest. Let's set the scene. They remember the old version of you, the one who was always quick to respond, always eager to explain, always willing to bend just to keep the peace. That man, yes, that version of you, was dependable to them, predictable, always within reach. In their mind, you were like a star fixed in the night sky, and they thought that star would always shine for them, no matter how they treated it. But here's the twist. You didn't stay fixed. You grew, you moved, you evolved. And when they look back now, the man they thought they could always count on is no longer the man they see. It's like this, folks. Imagine someone walking into a gym after years of absence. They remember the last time they went. They were strong, confident, fit. But when they walk in years later and see others who never stopped training, the comparison stings. Because it's not just about what they lost, it's about what they could have had if they had valued consistency. That's what's happening here. They see your growth, your discipline, your transformation, and it forces them to confront the fact that they didn't value you when they had the chance. At first, they won't admit it. Pride won't let them. They'll shrug, act unbothered, maybe even laugh about it. But inside, the comparison gnaws, because every glimpse of who you are now reminds them of what they overlooked. Maybe it's the way you look sharper, healthier, stronger. Maybe it's how you carry yourself differently, confident, steady, unshaken. Maybe it's the way you've been advancing in your career, your purpose, your personal growth. Whatever it is, the signs of your discipline radiate. And discipline, my friends, is impossible to ignore. And here's the cruel part for them. Comparison isn't something you're forcing. You're not bragging. You're not parading your growth in front of them. You're simply living, simply embodying the discipline you've chosen. But that very embodiment becomes a mirror they can't escape. Seneca said, "We should every night call ourselves to an account. What infirmity have I mastered today? What passion opposed? What temptation resisted?" That's exactly what you've been doing. You've been accounting for your life, mastering yourself step by step. And the result is a version of you that outshines the one they once knew. Picture this metaphor. They hold an old photograph of you, maybe saved in their phone or tucked in their memory. In that photo, you're smiling, attentive, perhaps even a little too eager. That's the you they believed they controlled. But when they see you now, whether through social media, through a mutual friend, or even just in their imagination, the difference is jarring. The photograph feels outdated, like looking at an old flip phone while holding a brand new smartphone. The gap between what was and what is becomes undeniable. And that gap, that's the weight they feel. This is why the pain cuts so deep. They thought your absence would weaken you. They thought maybe you'd crumble, maybe you'd chase harder, maybe you'd spiral without them. But instead, the opposite happened. You didn't just survive the silence, you thrived in it. You used it as fuel, you transformed. And now, when they compare, they don't just see who you were, they see who you've become, a man sharper, calmer, stronger, more grounded. And that realization is heavy, because it exposes a truth they never wanted to face. They didn't just lose you. They lost the upgraded version they never thought would exist. Think of a person who gives away an old coin, thinking it's worthless. Years later, they find out that same coin is now priceless, rare, desired by collectors all over the world. That sinking feeling, that regret, that's what they feel when they compare, because they realize they let something of great value slip through their hands while treating it as common. And once that realization sets in, it doesn't leave. It lingers. Now let's break another lie here. They believed you needed them to become better. They believed your worth was tied to their approval, but your growth proves otherwise. Your silence, your discipline, your detachment all scream a truth they can't deny. You were always capable, with or without them. And when they compare, they see that their absence didn't diminish you, it refined you. From a Stoic perspective, this is why growth matters. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one you didn't argue, you didn't explain, you didn't beg for recognition, you simply became. And in becoming, you've forced comparison upon them without even trying. Your silence has weight, yes, but your growth makes that weight impossible to ignore. And here's where the restlessness sharpens into regret. Because comparison isn't neutral. It always leans toward what could have been. They see the man you are now, and they can't help but think, that could have been mine. That could have been my life, my story, my partner. But it's not. And the reason it's not, their failure to value you when they had the chance. That truth is a boulder sitting on their chest, pressing harder every time they glimpse your strength. So, my friends, remember this. Growth is not about revenge. It's not about proving anyone wrong. It's not about flaunting success. Growth is about mastery, about becoming the man you were always meant to be, regardless of who notices. But here's the irony. When your growth is genuine, they can't help but notice. Even if they never say it out loud, even if pride locks their tongue, the comparison happens inside. And that comparison weighs heavier. Let me make it even clearer. Imagine them sitting across from someone new. That person might be charming, funny, attractive, but deep down, they'll measure them against you. They'll remember your calm presence, your steady energy, your disciplined growth. And no matter how much they try to ignore it, the comparison tips the scale. Because once someone has experienced rare, ordinary, never feels the same again. And that realization, that you were rare, that you became even rarer, is what makes the weight unbearable. So here's the affirmation I want you to write in the comments today. I am rare. Say it, own it, believe it, because that's the truth. Your silence, your growth, your discipline, they separate you from the common. And in a world full of noise, your stillness is priceless. Stay with me, my friends, because what comes next digs even deeper. Comparison may sting them now, but soon it turns into something heavier, regret. Not regret they'll admit, not regret they'll confess, but regret that lingers in silence, eating at them day by day. And that stage, that's where silence speaks the loudest of all. Number 5. Silent regret they can't admit. Regret is the ghost that never leaves. It lingers long after the moment has passed. My friends, nothing is heavier on the human heart than regret unspoken. It's one thing to feel it and release it through words, through apology, through tears, but when pride locks the tongue, regret becomes a silent prison. And that is exactly what begins to weigh on them when your silence holds steady, when your growth shines, and when their comparisons cut too deep. They begin to feel regret, real, raw, aching regret, but they cannot admit it. Not to you, not to themselves, not to anyone. Let's set the picture. Outwardly, they look fine. They post their pictures. They laugh with friends. They act as though life has gone on without a scratch. Maybe they even convince people around them that they're thriving. But inwardly, there's a quiet ache that gnaws at them when the lights go off and the crowd goes home. Because regret doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just whispers in the dark. Sometimes it shows up in hesitation before posting. Sometimes it lingers in the way they scroll back through your old conversations, rereading words they once ignored but now long for. It's like this, folks. Imagine someone walking into their childhood home after years away. Everything looks familiar, but something's missing. The pictures are faded, the furniture feels smaller, the laughter that once filled the halls is gone. They stand there, haunted not by what is, but by what was. That's regret. They can't relive it, they can't reclaim it, but they can't escape it either. And that's exactly what your silence has left them with, the haunting reminder of what they lost and cannot admit. Their pride becomes their warden. To admit regret would mean admitting they were wrong. It would mean admitting they miscalculated your worth, that they underestimated you, that they let go of something rare, thinking it was replaceable. And for many, my friends, that admission is heavier than the regret itself. So instead, they hide it. They bury it beneath distraction. A new post, a night out, maybe even a new person. But distraction is temporary. When the noise fades, the ghost of regret is still there, waiting in the quiet. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. They did what was not right. They took your presence for granted. And now they cannot say what is true, that they regret it." And this silence, this inability to admit, is its own punishment. Because while words can release, silence binds tighter. The more they keep it in, the heavier it grows. Picture them late at night, scrolling through their phone. They see your name. Their thumb hovers over the message box. Maybe they type, "I miss you." Maybe they start with, "How are you?" Maybe even, "I made a mistake." But before they hit send, pride slams the brakes. Delete, backspace, close the app. And what do? They put the phone down, stare at the ceiling, and let the regret burn quietly inside. And the next night, the cycle repeats. And here's the irony. If you were to demand answers, if you were to chase apologies, you'd actually make it easier for them. They'd defend themselves, they'd justify, they'd explain it away. But because you stay silent, because you demand nothing, they're left to sit with it alone. They have no escape. They have no outlet. They have no defense. Their regret has nowhere to go, so it festers. And festering regret, my friends, is the heaviest kind. Let's add a metaphor here. Regret is like carrying a backpack filled with stones. At first, you don't notice the weight. You distract yourself with the journey, with the scenery. But mile after mile, the weight digs into your shoulders, slows your steps, makes every breath harder. And you can't take it off, because taking it off would mean admitting you chose to carry it in the first place. That's what silent regret feels like. A weight they carry every single day, one that gets heavier with time instead of lighter. Seneca once wrote, "A guilty conscience is the mother of invention," and you'll see this in them. Their regret shows itself not in direct confession, but in subtle ways. They might watch your stories without interacting. They might find excuses to be in your orbit again. They might bring your name up casually in conversation, pretending it doesn't mean much. But all of it is invention. All of it is their conscience trying to express what their pride refuses to admit. Here's the truth. Your silence has made their regret louder. Because you didn't chase, you didn't demand, you didn't press them for closure. You simply embodied your philosophy. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." And that's what you've done. You've lived it out. You've shown discipline. You've grown. You've refused to break your silence just to soothe their pride. And in doing so, you've left them face to face with the one thing they cannot fight, the truth of their own choices. Now don't miss this. Their regret isn't just about losing you. It's about losing the chance to do it differently. It's about the realization that the bridge they burned can't be rebuilt. That even if they tried, even if they reached out, the version of you they once knew is gone, replaced by a stronger, calmer, more disciplined version who may never look back. And that realization makes the regret sharper. Because time doesn't erase regret. It magnifies it. Think of it like a scar. Fresh, it stings, but over time it becomes a permanent reminder. Every time they scroll past your name, every time they hear about your growth, every time they see the discipline you've chosen, it's like running their finger over that scar. The pain may not scream, but it whispers endlessly, and whispers, when repeated day after day, can be louder than shouts. So what's the lesson here, my friends? That your silence is not just absence, it's revelation. It reveals their regret, it forces them to confront what they'd rather ignore, and it leaves them with no outlet but themselves. And that's why silent regret hurts more than spoken regret, because it lives in their mind, their heart, their body, and no one else can carry it for them. Let's end this section with power. Write this affirmation in the comments right now. Regret is theirs, peace is mine, because that's the truth. Their regret belongs to them. Your peace belongs to you. And no amount of their silence breaking can take away the discipline you've chosen. Stay with me, my friends, because the journey doesn't stop here. Regret is heavy, yes, but what comes next hits even harder. When they try to replace you, when they search for distractions in new faces, they'll face the mirror of loss. And that mirror will show them a truth they cannot unsee, that what they once thought was common was in fact rare. And that loss, that's a pain they can't escape. Number 6. The mirror of replacement fails. You never know the value of water until the well runs dry. That old proverb might sound simple, but my friends, it carries the weight of truth that hits them right here when they try to replace you. Because after regret begins to whisper, after they've replayed the old conversations and scrolled through your ghosted presence, their pride still resists. They tell themselves, "I'll just move on. I'll find someone else. I'll prove to myself and to the world that I don't need them." And so begins the cycle of distraction, new faces, new voices, new attention. But when the noise quiets, when the laughter fades, they find themselves staring into a mirror that reflects a painful truth. Replacements don't work. The mirror of comparison shows them what they lost, and no distraction can cover that loss. Picture it like this, folks. Imagine someone losing a rare diamond and trying to fill the empty slot in the ring with glass. From a distance, it might shine. It might sparkle under the light. But deep down, they know the truth. It's not the same. It doesn't carry the weight, the rarity, the value. It's a substitute, not a treasure. That's the experience they have when they try to replace you. On the surface, it looks like they're moving on. But beneath the surface, every new interaction reminds them of the one thing that can't be duplicated: your presence. At first, they might feel a thrill. Someone new laughs at their jokes, compliments them, gives them attention. For a moment, it feels like medicine, but medicine can't heal what's rooted in the soul. Sooner or later, the comparison sets in. They remember your calm steadiness when others try too hard. They remember your quiet strength when others boast loudly. They remember your silence carrying more weight than someone else's endless words. And slowly, the replacement begins to feel hollow. Here's the irony. This stage doesn't hurt because of what the new person lacks. It hurts because of what you had. Seneca wrote, "True worth is discovered in contrast." And that's the dagger. In comparing the common with the rare, the ordinary with the disciplined, the shallow with the steady, they begin to see the truth. What they had with you wasn't replaceable. It was rare. And rarity, once lost, leaves an emptiness no distraction can fill. Let's draw another metaphor. Imagine drinking water from a mountain spring. Crisp, refreshing, pure. You get used to it. You might even take it for granted. Then one day, the spring runs dry, and you're left drinking from a tap that tastes of metal, chlorine, bitterness. You drink it because you have to, but with every sip, you remember the spring, and the memory makes the new water taste worse. That's what happens when they try to replace you. The memory of your steadiness makes the new, shallow attention unbearable. And here's the part that cuts the deepest. They can't admit this out loud. Pride still whispers, "Don't show weakness. Don't admit you miss them. Don't admit the new isn't enough." So instead, they smile. They post. They act as though they've upgraded. But inside, every laugh is followed by a pang. Every night out is followed by silence. Every new face is haunted by the ghost of what they let slip away. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." You didn't seek revenge, my friends. You didn't play games. You didn't broadcast bitterness. You didn't lower yourself. You chose growth. You chose peace. You chose mastery. And that very choice made you irreplaceable. Because while others compete for attention, you mastered detachment. While others spoke endlessly, you embodied silence. While others lived for validation, you anchored yourself in virtue. That combination doesn't just set you apart, it makes you unforgettable. Let me break a lie right here. They thought you were common. They believed that what you gave them could be found anywhere. They told themselves, if not them, then someone else. If not this, then something better. But the mirror of replacement proves otherwise, because once they encounter the common, the contrast reveals the rare. And when that realization hits, it's not just painful, it's permanent. Because you can forget noise, you can forget drama, but you can't forget rare. Think about it. They might sit across from someone new at dinner. The person might try to impress them with stories, with achievements, with jokes. Outwardly, they smile, but inwardly, the comparison strikes. They remember how you didn't need to impress, how your calm presence filled the room without effort, how your silence spoke louder than boasts. And suddenly, the laughter feels hollow, the conversation feels shallow, the moment feels empty. Because no matter how much they try, the mirror of replacement shows them a reflection they can't escape. You were different. Now, here's where the Stoic lesson shines. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Their attempts to replace you are their attempt to control what they can't, to soothe the wound of loss by forcing new faces into the empty space. But freedom doesn't come from replacement. It comes from acceptance, and that's the very thing they lack. Instead of facing their loss, they run from it. But running only makes the mirror clearer. Every new distraction becomes another reminder that they lost something rare. And my friends, this isn't about you proving a point. This isn't about showing off or trying to make them jealous. It's about you living in alignment with discipline, with virtue, with self-mastery. You didn't become rare to punish them. You became rare because you chose to grow. But the consequence of that growth is unavoidable. When they compare, the mirror always shows their loss. Let's circle back with a metaphor. Imagine them standing in a crowded market. Everywhere they look, there are trinkets, bright, flashy, cheap, easy to grab, easy to discard. But in their pocket, they once carried a jewel, rare, timeless, impossible to replicate. They gave it up, thinking the market had better, but every time they pick up a trinket now, it feels weightless, hollow, fake. And the memory of that jewel cuts deeper with every glance. That's the pain of replacement. That's the mirror they face. So what does this mean for you? It means you don't have to chase, don't have to prove, don't have to argue. Your silence already speaks. Your growth already shines. Your discipline already sets you apart. And the mirror of replacement will do the rest. Because no matter what mask they wear, no matter what stories they tell themselves, the truth is clear. You were rare, and they lost you. Write this affirmation in the comments right now. I am not replaceable. Because you're not. Not when you live with discipline. Not when you embody stillness. Not when you carry yourself with calm power. The world is full of noise, but men who master silence, they're one in a million. And once experienced, never forgotten. Stay with me, my friends, because if the mirror of replacement hurts this much, just wait until time itself turns against them. When every passing day of your silence becomes another chain they can't break, the weight will grow heavier still. And that's where the story takes its darkest turn. Number 7. Time turns against them. Time is the most valuable thing a man can spend. The philosopher Theophrastus said that over 2,000 years ago, and my friends, he was right. Time is the one thing we can't buy, can't replace, can't rewind. And when silence stretches long enough, when the days turn into weeks, and the weeks bleed into months, time itself becomes a weapon, not in your hands, but in theirs. Because while you use time to grow, to heal, to sharpen yourself, they feel time working against them. Every sunrise that comes without your return, every night that passes without your presence, every season that shifts without your chase, time whispers a truth they cannot ignore. You're not coming back. At first, they think it's temporary. They tell themselves, they're just giving me space. They'll reach out eventually. This silence is only a phase. They hold on to the illusion that time is on their side, that patience will bring you back. But time doesn't bend to pride. It doesn't feed illusions. The longer your silence holds, the more those illusions collapse. And soon, the same time they thought would comfort them becomes the very chain that weighs them down. Picture this. Imagine a prisoner scratching tallies into the wall of their cell, day after day, another line. At first, the marks give hope, they're proof of time passing, proof of movement, but as the days stretch on, the tallies become reminders of confinement. The wall fills, but the door never opens. That's what time becomes for them. Every day that passes without your voice, your presence, your attention, it's another tally on the wall. And instead of comfort, it becomes torment. Let's be real here, folks. Pride dies slowly. In the beginning, they cling to it. They say things like, they'll break first, they'll chase. They can't really let me go, but as silence holds, as time drags on, those words lose their weight. Their pride begins to bend under the pressure of reality. And reality says this: the silence isn't temporary. The distance isn't an accident. You've chosen your path, and that path doesn't circle back to them. The pain deepens because time has a cruel way of magnifying loss. In the first week, they might feel a sting. In the second month, they feel a wound. In the third or fourth, it becomes a scar that won't heal. Because time doesn't erase silence. It amplifies it. Each passing day becomes evidence, undeniable evidence, that your life has moved forward without them. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, that's what you've done." You've stopped wasting time chasing, arguing, proving. You've simply become. You've invested your hours into growth, your days into discipline, your nights into peace. And while you rise with time, they sink, because time reveals truth. And the truth is this: you no longer orbit their world. Imagine them late at night, phone in hand. They think, maybe today will be the day. Maybe they'll message, maybe they'll return, but the night ends. Nothing comes. The cycle repeats, and with each empty day, their heart sinks a little lower. What they thought was guaranteed now feels impossible. What they assumed was permanent now feels gone forever. Time, their old ally, has betrayed them. And here's the paradox. For them, time feels like chains. For you, time feels like wings. They count the days with dread, while you count them with gratitude. They feel time slipping through their fingers, while you feel time building your empire. Because you've learned the Stoic truth, time is not something to fear. It is something to use. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." You refuse to waste it. They already did, and that contrast burns more than silence ever could. Let's add a metaphor. Imagine two seeds planted on the same day. One seed is watered, cared for, given light. The other is ignored. As weeks pass, one seed grows into a tree, tall, steady, unshakable. The other remains buried, unseen, forgotten. That's the story time is writing. You chose to water your life, to cultivate discipline, to build strength. They chose distraction, pride, denial. And now when they look at you, they see the tree rising. When they look at themselves, they see the barren soil. That comparison, stretched over time, is unbearable. And here's the hardest truth for them. Time is irreversible. They can't go back. They can't undo the choices. They can't rewind to the moment when they took you for granted. All they can do is sit with the realization that what's gone is gone. And the longer the silence stretches, the sharper that realization becomes. Because time doesn't heal every wound. Some wounds get deeper the longer they're ignored. And this wound, the wound of losing someone rare, someone disciplined, someone steady, it's one that time makes worse, not better. Now, my friends, don't miss this. Your silence isn't punishment. It isn't a game. It's alignment. It's you choosing to live your life in accordance with peace, discipline, and purpose. You didn't step back to hurt them. You stepped back to heal yourself. And yet, the consequence is undeniable. Their time has become torment, while yours has become treasure. That's the power of choosing differently. So let's break the biggest lie here. They believed time was on their side. They believed distance would make you restless, would make you return. But your silence, your discipline, your detachment has proven the opposite. Time has only made you stronger, and for them, time has only made the loss heavier. Let me close this with clarity and motivation. For them, time has become an enemy, but for you, time is an ally. Every day you choose peace. Every day you choose discipline. Every day you choose growth. You separate yourself further from the noise. You become the man who doesn't just endure silence, he thrives in it, and that thriving makes you unforgettable. So here's your affirmation for today. Write it in the comments right now. Time builds me. Because it does. Every moment you invest in yourself, every day you refuse to waste on chasing, every hour you use to sharpen your mind and body, that's time building your empire. And if this message spoke to you, if it reminded you of the strength you carry, then hit that like button right now, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with a friend who needs to hear it. Because peace is not found in their approval. It's found in your mastery. And together, we're going to keep walking this path of discipline, clarity, and unshakable strength. Stay with me, my friends, because silence is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of becoming untouchable.